Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Firdaus bin RAUF. In this video, I'm going to show you and explain step-by-step instruction on how I solve my programming problem. So, in this question, we are required to solve this equation. Calculate 13.5 square plus 7.2 square over 4.3 square plus 49 divided by the square root of 3 plus 15. So firstly, we need to make our task easier, we need to divide this equation into two parts, which is A and B. So the left part is A and the right part is B. So for the equation of A, we need to write it clearly and careful not to make any syntax error. So for this equation, for the A equation, 13.5 to the power of 2 plus 7.2 to the power of 2 divided by 4.3 to the power of 2. So for B, this is just a similar instruction as A. So for dividing part, we need to use this slash, and for the square root, we need to utilize the sqrt function, and in the bracket we need to insert the value that we want, which is 3. So C equals to A plus B, which is C represents the computation between these two equations. So we get the value is 15.5889. So for the second question, we need to divide this by this. So to make the calculation easier, and we need to divide it into two parts, which is upper and the lower part. So as usual, we just write it down. For the power part, we need to use the arrow upwards, while the square root of 72, we use the sqrt function. And then we just calculate as usual, and for D, we get the value is 3.8628, and for E, we get the value 4.36. So when we divide D over E, we get the answer 0.8860. So for C question, this is a little bit hard, since to make our coding easier, we can divide this into three parts: the upper, lower, and the right side. But for me, I just write it down the left part here in one equation, because for me it isn't complex enough. And then based on the G equation, we get the value of 7.8955, whereas for the H equation is 6.86874, and when we sum up G and H, we get the value of 14.5829. So for the last question on this part is, they combine all together the division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction into one equation. So they have, the special here is they have a trigonometry, which sine, cos, tan, and the tricky part might be the square, cos square part here. So for trigonometry, there's nothing complicated. We just put the sign, write down the sign and make the parentheses, and we put the value that we wanted. So for this is 7 pi over 8. So pi in this in MATLAB is pi, then they will give the value of the pi. And then for the cos square 5 pi over 6, 5 pi over 7 is, we just write it down as usual, cos 5 pi over 7, and the power of 2 we cannot write it down on the after we declare the cos function, cos 3 after the cos. So we need to put in bracket the value that we have written, 5 pi over 7, and then we need to assign the power of 2. And as usual, I divide it into two parts again, which is the left part is j and the right part is k. For j I got the value 0.949844, and for the k I got negative 1.1592, and when I added these two I got negative 0.1748. So the second question for A1 is, we firstly need to define a variable and assign it with a certain value. For in this case x, we have two variables that have been declared, and for which is x and t. So for x, we assign the value of 2.56, whereas t, we assign the value of 6.7. So for the A equation, 2x to the power of 4 minus 6x to the power of 3 plus 15x squared plus 12, we just write it as usual, and then in this particular part, they will assign the value of x and compute it together and get a value which is 2.56. Same goes for question B, C, and D, except they have an exponential value, ln, and log. So for exponential, if you want to use in this MATLAB, we just write down exp and declare a parenthesis right after, and then within the parenthesis just assign the value that you want. So for this B question is e exponential to the power of 2x, and then we just write it down. 2 star indicates a multiplication operation, and then we put the x. For log, it's just the same like exponential. You just write down the log and write a parenthesis, and within the parenthesis is the ABS. ABS is a function for modulus, which is a short form for absolute, and then we write it down, t to the power of 2 minus t to the power of 3. And for log here, just write down the log and the base, and then when you have done with log and the base, you write down the index, which is 1360, and then you get the value. For question B is 40.0218, C 5.5447, and D 43.719.